Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. This is Child Abuse Prevention is Up to Us, and we're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com, and the chat room is open. I did pop the link in there to kind of what I want to talk about tonight. I got some really great news. I was talking about this actually the last couple of weeks. We have I've been invited to be on a panel of 40 plus speakers talking about child sexual abuse, to end child sexual abuse. It was an invitation from talk.org. That's TAALK.org. And great opportunity, really, to be a part of that. And so many amazing people on there talking about many different aspects of child sexual abuse. And, some of them are coming at it from an educational point. And some people are survivors, and some people are, clinical psychologists and therapists and whatnot. So it's going to be a great opportunity to be just one more voice, out here speaking about child abuse. And this is all about child sexual abuse. And it's going to be an amazing opportunity. I'm very humbled by it and very grateful to be a part of it. That's tomorrow. It's a 24-hour talkathon. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. And also just talking about, the issues that surround child sexual abuse and the issues that it's going on right now. The world just, of course, keeps going on, and people, don't really realize the scope and the depth of and the reality of that exists for children today, and has been since time began. Child sexual abuse, it's just going on, and right under the world's noses. And sadly enough, there's many people who enable it. Many people allow it to go on. Many people are perpetrating it. Many people know about it but won't do anything about it. Many people have had situations in their own homes where siblings were abused sexually, and maybe they were older and they could have done something about it, but they didn't because of their upbringing, and just the fact that many times people who are being abused will not seek help for many reasons. And it's discouraging, it really is. And even though we're making great strides, like everybody out here who's doing a lot of great work, I'm not really doing all that much, but I'm just doing what I can, right? But there are people out here who are doing some amazing work, and all of us together, I think, make a difference. Like even my voice, adding my voice to it makes a difference. Or somebody volunteering once a month, to help out at a local, domestic violence shelter. Whatever we do, right, it does add up, it does help, it does make a difference, even though we might think that our part doesn't really matter, in the scope of things. It actually really does, because overall in the whole scope of things, that's what we need, and we need more people stepping up to the plate. We need more voices, we need more people getting involved all the time, to help stop and prevent child abuse and child sexual abuse, child abuse of any kind, right? But tonight I'm actually talking about child sexual abuse. That's just because I'm going to be on this talk tomorrow, and I think it's very important. I've been talking a lot about child sexual abuse lately because I wrote my book, One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, The Journey, which is all about the CSA incest that I suffered as a child. And I finally dealt with it and finally, accepted it and realized that in order to heal and move forward, I was going to have to do that. And so it's been hard and painful 6 months to a year, really, that I've been working on it. Really about a year this month. So it's incredibly difficult to have to go through this as a 45-year-old woman, almost 46 years old, dealing with what happened to me at 8 years old, 8 and 9, and just the issues of not wanting to deal with it. I was already being abused physically and in every other way. And then, so my coping skills were all geared towards trying to maintain some type of sanity, some type of level of normalcy growing up in this home that I grew up in. And the CSA incest that happened when I was 8 was perpetrated by my 21-year-old brother, who was mentally ill, psychologically ill, and had all kinds of problems. And he was so messed up, in his head, really. And he ended up killing himself so many years later, right? And, it was hard. It was very, very hard for me to deal with. Throughout my life, I've had situations come up where it was in my face, Gynecologists telling me, well, you might say you're a virgin, but we see the scar tissue. We know you were sexually abused as a child, and you can say what you want. You're an adult. You can press charges, whatever. Well, my abuser had already killed himself the year before, so would I have just probably not. I grew up in abuse. I grew up with abuse. I grew up being abused, witnessing abuse. That's my life. That's what I grew up with, right? So that's my life. And so many people who have been abused will not seek help. They will not get help for other siblings. They won't because that's their life. This is a cycle of abuse, a cyclical, damage done from abuse, and it goes on many times, generation after generation, and that's why we have such a huge epidemic on our hands and why it's so hard to stop. Because so many times people will enable it or they will allow it to happen. My mother knew that my brother was sexually abusing me because I told her, and she just told me that was my problem. I was going to have to deal with it, and I was going to have to. So I told her, I said, how am I going to deal with it? She said, well, wrap yourself up like a mummy when you go to bed. That was her answer, and she was not going to stop him, and she did not want to confront her son, her 21-year-old son. So she just allowed him to rape me and sexually use me and sodomize me. She didn't care. And my mother was my main abuser, so she really didn't care. She was really, my maid was abusing me from day one. So really, what are you going to do? So sadly enough, this is I'm just one case, and there's so many children out here who will not survive. They'll die because of the abuse-related injuries, or they will kill themselves when later on in life. And I contemplated suicide right up until I was about 42 years old, and really had planned my suicide many times. And when I moved to Canada, when I was 30, just turning 30, 29 years old, I was actually planning my suicide when I moved up here. It was in the back of my mind that I could figure out, and I'm not going to talk about what it was because I don't want to give people any ideas, but I had all kinds of ideas, and I wanted to hang on so badly, Something just kept telling me just to hold on and hang on, and so here I sit today as almost a 46-year-old woman, quite a ways through my healing journey, and hopefully able to help other people who have suffered CSA or any kind of child abuse, right? That's my goal now, is to do what I can to help, to stop child abuse, to stop child sexual abuse, and do what I can to help survivors because I know where they're coming from. You know what I mean? I know where they've been, and it's incredibly hard. So talk is going to be an amazing 24-hour talkathon, and I hope that if you have time tomorrow and Sunday, that you will pop in there and listen to some of the speakers, because there's some amazing people going to be speaking there. I know some of them, but most of them I don't know. But it's from a website, www.talk.org, TAALK.org /talkathon, TAALK-A-thon, THON2, talkathon. And I'll just kind of give you a little rundown about Talk. You can go to their website, and that's www.talk.org. That's 2 A's, TAALK. And they are federally funded child abuse prevention group, right? They do a lot of great work. Like, they are so entrenched. Really, they're out there. They are really making progress. They're doing a lot of great work. They also sort of partner with stewards of. Let me get the right name for you. The hold on, just one second here. Slava Brooks is she's been of the San Diego chapter of the. I want to give you the right name here. Hold on just a second. I'm just scrolling down. It's called the For Darkness to Light Stewards of Children program. That's what it's called. Darkness to Light. That's the website. And the Stewards of Children program. There's all kinds of chapters. Stewards of Children, Darkness to Light, Stewards of Children chapters throughout the United States, and some in Canada, and some right here where I'm at in Calgary. And if you want to get involved, just get a hold of these people here at Talk, TAALK.org, or Darkness to Light. Just type in your browser Darkness to Light or Stewards of Children or Talk, TAALK, and through those different websites you can get information on how to get involved, right? Because they go in and they do workshops with teachers and workshops with other people and individuals who work with children, to promote education and awareness regarding child sexual abuse, what to look for, signs and symptoms, how to be proactive about reporting, you know what I mean, and how to report and how to properly do these things, because you don't want to mess up a case for a child, right? And there's so much, really, if you don't know a whole lot about child sexual abuse or child abuse, period, just start looking around, because there's some great information on websites. Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, I was volunteering with them for a long time. I love them with all of my heart, and I always will. They are an awesome organization. I left for personal reasons only. They do some great work, and there's a bunch of committed individuals who commit their time and their lives to do what they do. I was part of it for quite a while and loved every minute of it. There's so many groups, right? Little Warriors out of Edmonton, Alberta. They do some great work. Little Warriors. I mean, they're talking about child sexual abuse as well, and they're getting some. They're not just talking; they are doing some great work, like these other guys. They work with teachers and parents and just anybody who works with children to promote awareness and education, so that they can look for the signs, know what to look for. You know, so many times people, they just don't know what to look for, and they're not looking. And children, you know, they could have a teacher could be, you know, have a student in their class for 6 months of the year, or even a year-long class for like the, you know, first grade through elementary or whatever, and not even know that this child's being sexually abused, because sometimes there's no signs, you know, sometimes there's not. And sometimes there is signs, but if you don't recognize these signs, it's not that all the time that a child's just going to come out and say, I've been sexually abused, help me. You know, it's actually rarely the case, because children are in fear. They're living in fear. Many times the abuser has told them that if they tell, that, you know, they'll hurt somebody in the family, or they'll hurt their pets, or they'll hurt their brothers and sisters, or they'll hurt their parents, or whatever, or whoever the offender is. And also sometimes they make it a game. It's our secret. It's our little secret. It's our game. Don't tell anybody. And so many times children will not tell, you know, rarely, actually. I think the statistics show, you know, that children pretty well don't tell. And sometimes they do tell and they're not believed, and that was my case. You know, I told my mother. I didn't want to tell my dad because my dad was psychologically ill. And my dad was one of my abuser too, but he tried to kill me and my sister by driving us over a cliff one time. And he was always threatening to kill the family and stuff, and I really didn't want to talk to my dad. I stayed away from him as much as I could. And he had, like, yanked my hip out of place, and it was severe beatings and stuff from him. So I didn't really want to even discuss it with him, but I did tell my mother, and she was my mate, and, you know, nothing was done. And I didn't tell anybody else. I didn't tell anybody at school. I didn't talk to anybody. First of all, because my mother would threaten to kill us if we told anybody what was going on in the home. So she actually threatened to kill me if I told anybody what was going on in the home. So I didn't tell anybody outside of the home, except for, let me see, I told one friend of mine as an older, like just out of elementary school, right? Maybe I think it was in 7th grade. I told a friend of mine, because she told me that she was being raped by her brother. So I said, well, I was being raped by my brother too. So we both had something in common there. And but that's the only other person that I actually told that to as a young person, and I really only discussed it with a few friends later on. And so it's not like many times people will not tell, and until they get older, you know. And so some survivors of child sexual abuse and incest and whatnot will never tell a soul. They'll never tell anybody. They will suffer with it, with that secret the rest of their lives, and because they know that they can't tell anybody about it, and, you know, for many reasons. And so they suffer on in silence and on their own. And maybe some of them are able to make peace, you know, on their own, and that's fine. Maybe some of them can't. You know, it's just horrific. Like, you know, this is people. There's all kinds of crazy stuff out there. There's people lobbying the government for adult-child sexual relations. There's people out there, you know, promoting child sexual abuse, really. I mean, it just makes me sick to my stomach. And, you know, on a worldwide scale, you know, the whole issues of child exploitation, child sexual exploitation, and child sex trafficking, and just the whole issue of that's another situation that is absolutely ridiculously out of control. How many sick people there are out there that are getting off on using children sexually. It just tells you that these are people who live right next to us. They live right next to us. They work with us. It's not like somebody you work with is going to say, like if you say, what are you going to do this weekend? And your coworker would say something like, oh, I'm going to go home and molest my children and sexually use the neighbor's kids. You know, people aren't going to tell you that they're going to sexually use children or that they're into internet, like child pornography, but they are, and they do. And the sad thing is that these are people that live right next to you, right next to me. It could be going on in your own house. The stats are what they are. The statistics are what they are. And if you go to any credible website, like these guys, like talk.org, federally funded websites that have really good stats on them, you can see the stats. I mean, really, the higher percentage of children being sexually abused in any way, whatever type or form it is. Well, where are the children? Well, generally they're at home. It's wherever the children are that the sexual abuse is taking place. It's about 5 to 10% stranger danger. And I mean, the stats go as low as 5. Many websites say 5%, but some will say 5 to 10%. So 5 to 10%, let's just say, is stranger danger. Somebody that's a child just absolutely does not know, never met in their entire lifetime, never even seen. Maybe this person might have stalked them for a bit or something, but the child does not know them. And that's 5 to 10% stranger danger that a child will be abused sexually in some way. The other 80 to 85 to 95% is somebody the child knows. And the sad reality is that about 40% is the parents, right? A parent or a caregiver, somebody the child is raising the child, whether it's a parent or a parent's partner or something. And the other, like 40% or whatever, 45% is somebody the child knows. It's a distant relative or a family member, like a sibling, cousins, somebody the child knows is related to them. It's a family thing, right? So many times people think it's almost always, somebody outside the home, like a coach or a pastor or some sort of, wherever the child is, kindergarten teacher. Even though teachers have been, do sexually abuse children, people in churches sexually abuse children, people all over the planet, all over the world, all over every city and every town and every nation and every country are sexually abusing children. Why? I say it's not okay. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care what these people out here say that think that child sexual abuse is okay. It is not okay. So here I'm going to get on a rant again. But you know what, though? It's not okay. And it will never, ever, ever, ever be okay. And I will argue with somebody to the end of time. Because there are people out here who would argue with me. There's plenty of people who would say, oh, there's nothing wrong with child sexual abuse. Well, they're sick. There's something wrong with them. Because children are not sex toys. I was not a sex toy. I was turned into a sex toy. I was made to be a sex toy, my 21-year-old brother. Right? I was 8 years old, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not okay. It never, ever, ever will be okay. And we have to put a stop to this. And the only way we can put a stop to it is to start talking about it. And that's why I'm so absolutely honored to be a part of that 24-hour talkathon tomorrow. Because, we need every single voice out here on this talking about child sexual abuse and talking about the issues that it is happening in our homes and who's going to put a stop to it. You know what I mean? Like, parents will sit by and allow it to happen. You know what I mean? Parents, and many times when people say, well, my mother didn't know that it was happening, or, well, my father didn't know it was happening, or, nobody really knew it was happening. No, they do. People know. You know what I mean? It's just that they like to pretend that they don't know so that they don't have to deal with it. Because then they're going to have to press charges. Somebody's going to have to go to court. Somebody will end up in jail doing time. If they don't do time, they're going to have to go through counseling, and they probably won't do that because many people who sexually use children are obviously not going to want to have to go through time. And, we put on the sex offender, national sex offender list, right? It's an issue, and many times people will cover it up. It's the same with child abuse of any kind. That's what I talk about here on these shows at night, whenever I do them. I've been actually really busy and really tired, so I've been kind of cutting some of my shows out, obviously. But, this is what I'm talking about. Like people that will just cover it up, shove it under the carpet, allow it to happen, and that is so incredibly sad. Because these children do not deserve this. These children out here who are being sexually used, sexually abused in some way, whatever way it is, sexually exploited in any manner, they do not, it's not their job in this life to please adults sexually or other children or other, older children. No, it's really not. And we have to put a stop to it. And the only way, I think that truthfully, I've heard this and people say, oh, well, it's such a cliche. I really don't care if it's a cliche or not. Education really is the key. Because the more education we have out here, the more we can do about it. The more we can get the info out to people who, might about sexually using their child, but if they hear voices talking about it and how absolutely disturbing and disgusting it is, and how disturbing and disgusting they are for doing it, eventually, it might cause somebody to think twice about it, And also you might run into, a parent who knows that their child's being sexually abused, and if you're talking about it enough, they might feel like, man, I should do something about that. I should get my child some help, I don't want my child to suffer like, maybe they were sexually abused as children. They allowed their children to be sexually abused, you know what I mean? It's horrific. It's happening, and then other times parents don't know. Sometimes they just don't know, for whatever reason. Maybe it's somebody outside the home or somebody's gotten a hold of the child somewhere, and maybe they just don't know. So if we can educate them on the signs and the symptoms, and really get the word out about, what to look for, what to watch out for behaviorally with your child. Children deserve protection. As a matter of fact, it's their right. And they have the right to life. They have the right to protection. I'm all about child rights. And really that's my main focus. And the thing is that people, if we don't uphold those rights, then they don't mean anything. We all have human rights afforded to us, but if we don't uphold them and stand up for them, then they don't mean anything. They're just on paper. It's the actual action of doing something, to protect these children, to protect people that need protection. And children are our most vulnerable sector of society. We need to protect them. They cannot protect themselves. There's no way I could stop my 21-year-old brother from sodomizing me, raping me, and sexually using me for over a period of about, I'd say, close to a year. How was I going to stop him from doing that? You know what I mean? I did try. I was tied up and bound and gagged. You know what I mean? So, this is the thing, right? Children cannot protect themselves. And they need us to protect them. They need the parents to protect them. They need whoever's in the home to protect them. A child's being abused, you do the right thing, right? And many times people say, well, what is the right thing? We get them some help and what? We get, social services involved. Well, first of all, you phone it in as a crime. Child abuse is a crime. It needs to be reported as a crime. So make sure that there's a police report as well as whatever else you want to drag into it, but make sure it's reported as a crime because it's a crime. And child sexual abuse is a crime. I hope everybody knows that. And punishable by the law if they're proven guilty. And a lot, if you don't get that child some help, people that just enable abusers are just as guilty as far as I'm concerned. That's how I feel about it in my books. Because you're going to stand by and allow a child to be abused in any way, you're just as guilty because you know about it and you're not doing anything to get that child any help. And many times people will say, well, I feared for my life. Well, what about your child's life? What about these children out here? Like, this is what that kind of angers me, that people will say, well, I was afraid for my life. What about your child's life? Your life has to come first so you can save your life, so you can save your child's life. But your child's life has to mean just as much, and you have to get yourself and your child's safety, right? And so it's just so important. Like, we cannot stress that enough. Enablers, right? There's so many people that enable child abuse and child sexual abuse. And it's really disturbing when you think about it. I don't know how people can sleep at night. I don't know how these people out here. Well, let's just look at the stats, right? 1 in 3 to 4 girls will be sexually abused in some way under the age of 18. So whether that's, unwanted sexual touching or molestation, exploitation, rape, whatever, you name it, right? They're saying 4 boys now. The stats used to be 1 in 6 to 7 boys. But now they're saying it's more likely 1 in 4 boys. So 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 4 boys will be sexually abused in some way under the age of 18. That's the reality of it. I know, I'm not naming names, but I know so many people when I was growing up, so many kids who were being sexually abused as children, including myself. And on my hands, if I could count to 10, most of my friends. Now, that's not sad and pathetic, sick and twisted. Well, I tell you, because I know who these people's I know who these people's parents were. I know who these people's grandparents were. I know who was sexually abusing them. See, I know who sexually abused me too. And I tell you what, it's so frustrating to me that people will just stand back and not care and, oh, well, not my child, why should I care? And, oh, well, problem, I wasn't abused. Well, good for you. Really good for you. You know what I mean? Be very, very glad and happy and thankful because there are little kids out here suffering right now because they are being abused. You know what I mean? And there is a whole world of people that really don't care. And sometimes they think they care and they'll, get involved for a little bit and then that's it. Because they figure, well, the fight's too big, it's too large, we can't, what are we going to do to try to save these kids' lives? Well, I tell you, there's police officers who are going to go out there tonight and they're going to pick up little kids' dead bodies and put them in body bags and, get the crime scene all, reported and hopefully take somebody to jail. And, they're not going to be able to stop it. And they know that every shift they go on. Like, there's police officers, law enforcement officials all over the world who are going to all these different homes and places where children are and having to deal with this because people will not get the children some help. And we have a whole society of people that say, oh, well, not my problem. I'm too busy shopping. Excuse me. Hey, I like to live my life, too. You know what I mean? But I find it incredibly hard to live my life because I was abused as a child. So, I do the best I can. You know what I mean? But there's a whole segment of society out there who really, so oblivious to it. And it's like, no, get involved, get involved. Even if it's like one day a month. Just donate one day a month to something, one Saturday or one Sunday. You don't have to give your whole life to it. But I would say just get involved where you can, because it really does make a difference. Like I'm trying to spread myself too thin, and I'm trying to do too many things, and because I want to help so many different people in different aspects of this thing. And it's unfortunate that I can't be 2 or 3 people, right? Because I'd love to do that, split off and just, help as many people as I can. But sadly enough, I'm just one person with no money and, and hardly a job half the time, right? So it's really unfortunate. But, I just do the best that I can, right? And I think that that's really what it's all about. It's kind of like whatever you can do. Not everybody's going to donate the kind of time that I do to this sort of stuff. The reason I do is because I was abused as a child. It means everything to me to be involved in this because it's my way of getting my abusers, right? It's like to say, ha, screw you, you know what I mean? You screwed my life, and I survived. I didn't kill myself. You didn't kill me. I didn't kill myself. And so here I sit, and I'm going to do everything I can, with the rest of my time to try to change this for other children, right? But for me, it's a personal issue. But, for so many people, they might not want to donate the kind of time that I do, to this. But I would say whatever you can do, right? Just the smallest little things, man, they add up. They really do. Everybody doing something they would consider small is something huge, right? And so that's why I say, just get involved where you can. Look around in your own neighborhoods, in your own communities, see who's doing what and get involved with it. It's not even about the money. It's mostly about a show of force. It's like put your voice in there, put your name in there on the roster, get involved, Like it's a show of hands to say, hey, we care. We care about these kids out here, and we care about the situation, and we want to see child abuse stopped. We want to see child sexual abuse stopped, because there's not enough voices in on this. And even though there's 40-plus speakers at this 24-hour talkathon, thanks to Diane Cranley, the organizer, and, the founder, and really the director of the whole thing, and, and Slava Brooks, and a whole lot of other people. What an amazing thing, 40-plus speakers. But we need more voices, Use your voice where you can. Get involved where you can. Do what you can, right, with the rest of your time. Because these kids need our help. We won't be able to help them. They're gonna be abused tonight. They're gonna be, mistreated tonight. They're gonna be abused tomorrow night and the next night. But we can change the way that people feel towards children. We can change through education and awareness and promoting awareness. We can change this thing in a few generations. But we really seriously need to get busy, extremely busy doing it. Because the parents aren't going to do it. If you're a parent, have you done it? Have you tried to show your children nonviolent ways of behaving and how to not hurt children and how to not hurt other children, and how to not hurt children when they get older so that they don't abuse their children? I don't know. Nobody seems to be doing that because people are abusing their children. And people, this next generation of children graduating, how many of them are going to do the same thing? We're going to see their pictures in the paper, and we're going to hear about them killing their children, sexually using their children in about 2 or 3 years. Yeah, you watch. So very sad, sick, and twisted. Let's do something about this. And be sure and check out this talkathon tomorrow and Sunday, 24-hour talkathon. It's going to be amazing. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.